Hello, welcome to the live. It is Thursday. I don't know why I have two of these things in. I only really need one, but I'm wearing them both. Why not? So hopefully the lighting remains good. This when the light in the afternoon changes, it's still light. Anyway, hopefully the lighting remains good. We're here in Berkeley, California, coming to you with the weekly live. Glad to have you here with me. This is Kim Howerton, and I am rambling, so we'll get into it. I What's the update? Still going to the gym, still doing my thing, still eating a high fat. No, the hell am I eating like these days? High protein, generally low carb diet. I just did a video for YouTube that I'm editing. And so maybe that's why I can't think of what words I need to come out of my mouth. But the video was about how my eating has changed over the years. Like, I used to be much more what I would call traditional keto. Now I would really say I'm more high protein, low carb. And so, anyway, I was just sort of saying that in the video. But one of the things that I really wanted to make clear as I was recording this video is I see a lot of people when they decide to change the way they eat a little bit, um, start to villainize the way they used to eat. And I think that's a problem. Anyway, I think that's a problem. Hey, Brenda, nice to see you. I think that we can learn new things, and like one of the points I was making in the video was, um, I would never have gone keto, never have gone keto if you told me that I had to eat the way I eat now. Currently, I prefer to eat the way that I eat now. It works for me just right, and it doesn't feel restrictive, and I love it, and I'm happy, but it wouldn't have worked for me then. And so often we we are like, "Oh, I was so dumb and I shouldn't have ever done that, and keto's so bad, and high fat keto is totally wrong and it won't work for anybody and blah 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 blah." It's like, please let's get real and stop like hopping from like fad to fad to fad, and instead like commit to our actual health and what works for us. Just because you decided something works better doesn't mean you have to villainize what you used to do. Anyway, I'm a little hepped up about that. There are some people out there who are very mean. Anyway, I don't like that. I like look back at my past and think I did as best as I could with what I had at the time, and thank God there was keto the way it was explained to me initially, which isn't the way that I eat now, but it was the thing that got me out of the place that I was in and into this world where I could make choices about my health that I couldn't make before. So, let's not make that wrong. Let's not. So, anyway, that's my little rant. How are you? I hope everyone's doing good. I'm really enjoying my gym time. I did have a moment last night where I decided I was like, I'm not going to the I like have this little rebellious part of me. I'm like, I'm not going to the gym tomorrow. I was like, I don't actually not want to go to the gym tomorrow though. I just want to say that I did. Anyway, so I woke up this morning, I went to the gym. Happy as a clam. Happy to do it. Anywho, Brenda says, I agree because I fell off the whole thing because I put myself down and got nowhere. Yeah, I mean, we're so mean to ourselves. I mean, the world is kind of mean, and then we're mean, and then we're mean, and it's like we're mean inside a mean world. And it's like, yeah, you can be nice to yourself. Like, we're fake nice to ourselves. Fake nice to yourself is like, I'll have a cookie. Real nice to yourself is like, I will respect and honor the way that I feel. Anyway, I know who you're talking about, Tracy. Somebody sent I haven't watched the video from that person. So if you can't see this comment, because some of you are on Facebook and some of you are on YouTube, so the comments are coming in to me from both. There's a video out there from somebody who went keto, carnivore, protein priority, feels keto wrecked her thyroid and metabolism. So here's what I think. It's well understood that chronic dieting is no bueno. It's no good. And like I said, I have not watched this person's video, by the way. So I don't know the details. I simply know essentially what you just told me because a couple people texted me about it. I had already recorded the video. Wasn't talking about her in the video. I'd already recorded the video. I'm just editing it. But it applies. And so here's the deal. Like, if you chronically calorically restrict, you indeed can cause harm to your thyroid. I don't believe that keto harms the thyroid. Here's the deal about keto and thyroid issues. So, keto does seem to downregulate the level of T3. So, just to explain, our body makes T4, it then removes an iodine and it becomes T3. So we use T3. We make T4. So we make the T4, we convert it to T3, and then our body can use it for its thyroid needs. That's a simplification, but there you go. And there there are some that argue that you need carbs to convert T4 to T3. And there does seem to be some evidence that people who are keto have lower T3. And there also seems to be some evidence that a lot of people who are keto who have lower T3 do not exhibit any negative symptoms of hypothyroidism. So the argument that is made by many is that while keto might alter T3, it's essentially that you might become more efficient with T3 so that the absolute number is lower, but you feel good, your temperature's good, so like there's a range of functional numbers, right? And so if the absolute number is lower, but you're not experiencing negative side effects, the argument is it's not a problem. That's how some people, essentially the argument is that keto will make your T3 more efficient. So you might have less of it, but it's working. It's enough. That's an argument that is made. I see so many people go keto and stay keto and see really, really awesome improvements in their thyroid function that I have some trouble really believing that um, that this is really a problem, because a lot of the research that people pull up around thyroid dysregulation from uh, low carb, it's based on some very high carb dieting concerns, and the things that are being um, drawn is the conclusions that are being drawn. It's like A plus B equals Z. Like, there's a lot of logic leaps. I will say that I think a lot of these people who are like, I went keto, my weight loss stalled, my thyroid got whacked out, bad things happened. I think if we really analyze what was going on there, they were hypocaloric, very low calorie, for far too long. And I say it now, I say it all the time. We are not meant to be chronically dieting. We are not meant to need to eat less. So think about what your thyroid does, right? Your thyroid is one of the main hormones that regulates your metabolic rate. It's not the only one, but it's in there, right? And so this is what it's essentially that your thyroid is like your thermostat. And if you're chronically under eating, your body, your house says, we better turn down the heat. Um, we better turn down the thermostat because we can't afford to heat this house, right? So we're getting colder and colder. So slightly weird analogy. But essentially, if you kept your metabolic rate high while you ate very little, you would die, and you don't want to die, right? So what it's doing is your body is trying to save you from yourself by altering your metabolic rate to slow it to a metabolic adaptation so that you have enough energy to spare to survive, because your heart, your lungs, all your organs, they need energy. Actually, your organs take up the most energy of your entire body. And so, just to be a living person, there's a baseline energy need. What you can do by altering your metabolic rate is saying, well, we used to need $1,000 a month to survive, but we've learned to cut corners and we're not going to heat the house anymore. And we're going to do this. And so now our budget is 800. So we'll survive just fine, only spending $800 a month. Now I've switched from heat to money, but you get the idea, right? So it's like your thyroid is your banker. And so so what I often see where this person is like, "Oh, it was eating too low carb." I really think it's eating too low calorie for too long. So that's why I periodize fat loss. So I might do a 12-week period of fat loss, and then I'm going to come into maintenance for a while. And then I might do another fat loss period, and then I'm going to come into maintenance for a while, allowing those hormones to reset, allowing my metabolic rate to sort of bring itself back up a little bit, come back up to my maintenance level. So that's the pattern I follow now. And it makes me very happy to have this pattern to follow now. I just, now, am I anti increasing carbs? No, I eat more carbs now. I bet I eat as many carbs as this woman does. Like, I eat a fair number of carbs. I mean, not a lot of carbs compared to the average human in the world, but a good number of carbs compared to how I used to eat when I was first keto. So if you think more carbs is a good idea, I'm not against eating more carbs if you are strategic about which ones you choose. But do I think it's a requirement for a sedentary middle-aged woman? I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about anybody else. I might be talking about you, but you know what I mean. If you're a sedentary woman or man, who's not super young anymore, not super active, your need for carbs is honestly fairly low. And so my first reaction, again, not having watched any of the video, my first reaction is I suspect this is more about caloric intake than carb intake. But if you want to try low carb, high, but not keto, higher carb, um, feel free. Like I said, I eat high protein, moderately lowish fat, high, moderate fat. It's hard. High and low are very subjective terms. I'll tell you. I eat around 150 grams of protein. I eat somewhere between 50, 70 grams of carbs a day most days. And my fat in maintenance periods can be anywhere around 100. And when I'm trying to lose weight, it's lower. So that's not a ketogenic diet according to a lot of people's rules. And I don't really give a flip. Like, I I said this in my video, which I'm wearing the same sweater, so it'll feel like a repeat. Like, I don't care what you call me. I care that I'm healthy. And over time, your needs change. You try something new, something works better. I just found my hunger was better controlled, reintroducing some salads. And Keto for Good, what's your name? I don't know. Keto for Good says, I think eating more carbs would make me crave more carbs. And I was that person too. Years ago, I tried eating more like net carbs, right? Like more of a high vegetable, and I was hungrier. And then strangely, the past few years, like more recent years, more carbs makes me fuller. Now, I'm not talking about white rice. I'm not talking about brown rice, even. I'm not talking about pasta. I'm talking about lettuce and broccoli and cucumbers and, like those kind of carbs, because I can eat an enormous volume of those kinds of foods for very little caloric or really even carb numbers. Screw the rules. Nisha said this yesterday. Yes, Nisha and I have had this conversation many times. And I did yeah. So yeah, honestly, I mean, yes, I understand that my social media says the ketonist, and I serve the keto community because to me, keto is the thing that got me started on my journey. And I think keto is the best gateway. I'm not saying it's the only gateway, but I think it's the best gateway from an unhealthy life into starting to figure out what works for your body. But it doesn't have to stay that way if you don't want it to, but it can. And, I mean, I'm simply saying that I want to help people, and being dogmatic about things is not the way I think it works best. But I also say don't throw the thing that you don't do anymore under the bus because there's a reason that it worked for you once upon a time. Um, Karen said last night in Nisha and Ken's live, hold on, I'm thirsty. He explained that we can be fooled counting net carbs versus it went away. Keto total carbs. Many keto treats have fiber that technically doesn't act like fiber, so you can store more carbs than you realize. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't really think counting net carbs is a good idea. Let's discuss why I don't think net carbs is a good idea. Well, there's a couple of things. Do you guys know that the caloric count on packages is often wrong? In my mind. Okay, so here's the deal with carbs. So carbs are there's total I'm talking about the way we talk about them in the United States on labels. So in the EU it's different. But hey Ken, how's it going? So we've got total carbs, then we've got fiber. Now, fiber is broken. There's two types of fiber. There's soluble fiber and there's insoluble fiber. Then below that, I mean, they're not in any order, but we've got starch. So there's total carbs is all the carbs. We've got fibers, of which there's soluble and insoluble. There's starch and there's sugar. So those are all the things. So if you add together the sugars, the starches, the fibers, you get total carbs. The reason that I think Ken was absolutely right is that there are the reason that net carbs is BS is there are some things that are called fiber that shouldn't be called fiber. So traditionally, like if you look at like plants, fiber is treated a little bit differently by your body than other types of carbs. It is so remember when I said soluble versus insoluble? Um, so insoluble fiber can't really be digested. So you just poop it out. So the argument was, well, we don't really absorb any fiber carbs. But that's been found to be not actually true. So if that was true, like we would need to say, oh, it's fiber is 0 calories. But in fact, it depends on the type of fiber. Some fibers we absorb like 75% of the calories from it, which you would interpret to mean that your body is getting a response from those carbs. And other carbs, we maybe get 0, but it varies so much that I really think it's better just to count them all. If you want to set your tolerance a little higher than 20, fine, but count all the carbs. And the other thing that I want to say that Dr. Barry was referring to, I think, on his live is I did a podcast about this. There are fibers that product manufacturers have access to that aren't fibers. They're called a fiber, but your body sees them as like 95% sugar. So you could argue they're misnamed. I would argue they're misnamed, but there's no way around that right now, which means that it is very unsafe to assume that the fibers in a keto product will have no negative effect on the body. So count them all. Um, there's things like the interview I did with Ted Teakin was he basically let me know that let's take, for example, soluble tapioca fiber. Soluble tapioca fiber actually comes in something like 10 different varieties. They all say soluble tapioca fiber on the package. You can't tell which one is which. One of them has been found to raise people's blood sugar. Not at all. The other one has been found to raise it basically like sugar. So when you're looking at a product that you've never had before and you never tested before, do you really want to play Russian roulette with your carb intake? I don't. So assume bad things with the products. Assume worst case scenario. You might be pleasantly surprised, but assume not good. So a question has come up. By the way, Tracy says, why don't me and the berries do joint lives? Dr. Ken Berry is in my comment thread right now. I just haven't been able to visit them. It's been a little busy, and Nisha's having new there's just a lot of that. They're doing some construction, and we decided we really like to do lives in person together. And so I will go back and visit them in the next few months, and we'll do a bunch of lives again. There's no change. We're still besties, total besties. It's simply, life. Anyway, so Nancy asked, what about things like erythritol? Do I subtract those out? Um, I I went like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think for me, I don't really stress out about my carb count anymore. And so I just count total carbs. And I know that erythritol doesn't seem to affect my blood sugar or my fat loss, so I don't really worry about it. Um, Do I think that it would be a problem to subtract it? Probably not for most people, but I just found my life worked better when I started counting total carbs. And I don't really eat that much erythritol. If I make something with erythritol in it, and I just don't worry about it. And I know if for my body, I know as long as my carbs are between, 30 and 50, I'm pretty golden. For some other people, they might say my keto only works if my carbs are under 20, which was me several years ago. And in that case, I just made the erythritol count in there and it limited my use of some sweets. And that was probably a good thing. Let's see, what did I miss? Nick says, it sounds like you're doing the PE diet. Absolutely. I read that a while ago, but I was trying different approaches long ago. And actually, before Ted wrote the PE diet book, he was talking about a 3-to-1 ratio. And I tried that. And back then, it really wasn't for me, but it works for me now. And so, different strokes, different folks at different times on our journey. Thank you for saying I look vibrant. I appreciate that. Um, doo-doo-doo. Rebecca says soluble corn fiber spikes my blood sugar 59 points. Yeah. So there's a product out there. I'm going to out them. Chalk Zero coming for you. I don't want to say anything that is legally a problem, but I cannot understand how they don't use the really high sugar type of fiber, like the fiber that is only fiber in name but acts like sugar, because Chalk Zero chocolate, which says it's low net carbs, will raise my blood sugar more than dark chocolate made with sugar. So, yeah, don't try like if there's a brand that you've tried of something that has higher total carbs, but it says it's got low net carbs, and you check your ketones and you check your blood sugar and it doesn't stall your weight loss, if all those things are true, you could say, okay, this product I can put in my safe category, but always assume unsafe until proven otherwise. I see so many people using products very unaware because some keto influencer says it's fine, but they've never really researched it or looked into it. And if I start hearing from a lot of people that a product doesn't like is raising people's blood sugar, I'm going to take it upon myself to test it and see because I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell people garbage information. Now, am I wrong sometimes? Sure, we're all wrong sometimes, but we need to verify things. Anyway, so anyway, all right. What else? What kind of supplement should you take with keto? Was a question that came in. I think that most people probably need to take magnesium. I think most people, if unless you eat a lot of fish or seaweed, probably should a little bit of iodine should be in your life. But if you eat seaweed or fish, you're getting iodine, and so you're good. I just if you need it, you need it. Mostly supplements are about what you need, not what it's not an across the board thing. I just think most people, given the quality of our soil these days, some magnesium is probably a good idea for most people. I'm not a doctor, by the way, and nothing I'm saying is medical advice or should be taken as medical advice. But think, just general vitamin D3, K2, magnesium, and salt and a little bit of iodine are a real basic um, just health issue. Really, any of the recommendations I would make about supplements are about the general health of the general population and not specific to keto. The only thing I would say that's specific to keto is keep an eye on your sodium intake and make sure you're getting plenty because when you eliminate the highly processed foods that you were probably eating before you went keto, your body needs um, sodium. Amelia said, "Oh, Ken, yes, Nisha and I are doing a live on Friday, but I don't know if it's in her private group or in her public group. I will clarify and add that to the notes. But yes, Nisha and I are doing a collab on Friday." Amelia said, had a colonoscopy a month ago. Oh yeah, high fiber, high carb diet. Yeah, yeah, they really like people to do the fiber. And I see a lot of people are don't respond to fiber the way that they would imply you respond to fiber. A lot of people find that fiber is not their friend, and that's changed again for me. So I went carnivore for 6 months a couple of years ago. My digestion completely changed after that. I credit being carnivore for a while with a lot of improvement in my health. Ultimately, it's not how I stayed, but that experience really helped my body absorb more nutrients, heal some gut stuff. So I healed some gut stuff, which allowed me to absorb more nutrients, which seemed to help my body deal with fiber better as well. So lots of wins there. But if you don't do well with fiber, I don't think being on a low fiber diet is a bad idea. Carnivore and Coffee said, I'm so glad I invested in a meter and tested a bunch of things. Weren't big shockers. Some blew my mind. Yep. Even a cheapo glucose. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Jeannie says, any suggestions on helping your kidney function? You know what? Outside of my wheelhouse, but definitely eating clean and drinking a lot of water. I do know that kidney things can happen when there's not enough hydration, but like deeper issues, not so much. I mean, not. I don't know the answer, is what I mean. In case that was an unclear phrasing. I know if people are suffering from kidney stones, that water is very helpful. Karen says 2 Crazy Ketos did a keto box review with our son Anthony. Anthony was great reviewing the junk. Oh, that's funny. Yes, I give when I used to get keto crates, I would give all the junk to my boyfriend. So yeah, I mean, like if your body doesn't respond well to fiber, shoving a lot of fiber down your gullet isn't going to be generally well tolerated. There are some studies out there that do show that there are some people with chronic constipation, and in this group of people they looked at, they found that actually a low to almost no fiber diet, their symptoms resolved, and ultimately that sounds better than having chronic digestive issues. And so having a lower fiber diet can be the thing that maybe your body needs at the time. And it might not mean that you have to be low or no fiber forever, but certainly lack of pain is a much preferable way to live than chronic digestive distress. Anyway, yeah, a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people who keto ends up working really well for find they're not digestively fans of fiber. It's probably not a surprise. If you're somebody that does really great with a high fiber diet, you might not be attracted to keto. So, yeah. All right. What else is going on, people? Let me see if I missed any other questions. Ooh, Valerie had a tooth extracted. So sorry. Tally said things are constantly changing. There's a whole lot of information. It's hard to know what's real and what's not, just clickbait. Absolutely. And so that's why it's important. That's why it's important to listen to me. No, that's why it's important that people talk about this, right? That we talk about like why is it so confusing? I mean, one of the things that I think is when I first started keto, there were very few people talking about keto and how to do it and what's the right way. And now like everybody and their sister is talking about keto, and it's very confusing because they all have different rules. And honestly, what I've come to recently is I think it's kind of a fool's errand to try and say, like, let's make everybody better at keto. Keto is a tool, it's not a end result. I want to make people healthier and better at life. And if keto is the right approach for you to do that, I'm here for you. But if you need to tweak it and like the label isn't what matters, the health is what matters. So I think a lot of people out there are just missing the point trying to teach. I mean, I probably was one of these people, but if you're just trying to teach people how to be better ketoers, I want to teach people to be a better Tracy and a better Kara and a better Tally and a better Karen. Like I want to help. I don't know that I can teach you to do that. I want you to be that. And if you need support, I'm here for you. But hopefully that made sense. Um, when is my next reset? So if you guys don't know, I do a class that's called Keto Reset or the Keto Metabolic Reset. The idea behind it is taking people coming from keto and then helping them reset their body. Like, do you need to go? Do you need to do a reverse? Do we need to cut more? Do like what's right for you? So it's really an intensive program where we fix whatever is not working for you. And so I do that about every quarter. So we are going to be enrolling in March, which I think we're in March now. It's March 1st, right? So this month I'll open enrollment and we'll start at the end of the month. So in the next few weeks, and I'll have links for you very soon. Let's see. Kathy says, I think it's best to reevaluate what you are doing if it's not working. I agree, old extremes and philosophies still exist with influencers and others in our space. Yeah. Okay. Have I tried the keto mallow bars or the high key chocolate pearls? I have not. All right. Looking, seeing what I missed. Uh, Karen asks, any tips on how to get calories high enough on keto? I find I barely get above 1,000 each day, even 3 meals. I get full fast. I try to increase fats, but with no gallbladder, I keep under eating. So if you're finding that you get very, very full and can only eat 1,000 calories a day long term, I don't know that that's optimal, which I think you agree with because you're trying to eat more. One of the things I would say is look at Are you getting enough protein? And then look at what foods make you feel. This is kind of, it's like the opposite of what let me start over. So there are certain foods that you eat a small amount of and you feel very full. Those are called high satiety foods. There are certain foods that you eat and you don't feel that much fuller. Those are called low satiety foods. When you're normally trying to lose weight, you aim for high satiety foods, foods that make you feel very satisfied with less of the food. But if you're struggling to get enough calories in, you want to turn that towards the lower satiety food. As an example, egg salad for some people makes them incredibly full and they can't eat that many eggs. Other people keep eating eggs and they get there can be individual variability. Some people get really full on a few eggs, some people don't get full on eggs. Find some foods that are lower satiety for you that work in your dietary framework and add more of those. Amy asked, have you heard of strict keto being able to get rid of general skin warts? No, I haven't. Warts specifically, I believe, are a virus. And so keto, generally speaking, is not going to kill a virus that you have in your body. So I would look more at what is the cause of the warts. Now, if it's something more like boils or an inflammatory reaction, absolutely something like keto could help. But if they're actually warts, those are viral, I think, not a doctor. Um, Terry says it's interesting how people think they need more of what is making them sick. And if you say they should give something else, they freak out. Yeah, absolutely. Karen says, let's throw a San Francisco Bay Area Keto Fest. Sounds good. Um, Fred is having loose bowels within 20 to 30 minutes after each meal, carnivore since November. Has that been happening the whole time? Because the loose stool thing, definitely a carnivore adaptation issue, something that happens when people go carnivore and it can last for a while. Some people, that fiber can actually slow down their digestion. And so I would say, Fred, maybe try higher protein, lower fat and see if that sort of slows down the problem. Rebecca says, it's frightening how much terrible information and how many garbage products there are out there. Amen. Gemma says, I've been struggling. No, I've been keto. I don't know where I got struggling. I've been keto for some time with intermittent fasting and not ideal results. Struggling. That's where I saw the word struggling. For me, I think low carb is best with a calorie deficit. I will have my A1C drawn every 3 to 6 months. Yeah. So absolutely just do what works for you. And I think if you focus on high satiety, plenty of protein, some fats, obviously, you don't want to be, I don't think anyone should be low fat. I don't think that is a good idea. But it doesn't have to be super high fat if it doesn't work for you. You can be high protein, generally low carb, and you might find that is the right approach for you. Guylane, I talked about that at the beginning of the video. So if you want to go back and watch the replay, I did talk about the the claim about thyroid. Amelia says, I gave my 81-year-old dad Dr. Berry's book for Christmas, and he's now with you on the PhD. Can't convince mom to join him. Give it time. Just give it time. Show by example. Um, have you ever heard of nanoscan hair follicle analysis to show heavy metal hormones and parasites? Yeah, certainly I've heard of it. And I think that if you think you have parasites and or heavy metal toxicity, certainly it's something good to look into. To do it to everyone, regardless of symptoms, just because they have stubborn weight loss, the word scammy comes to mind. Um, Fred, that's a long time. Have you tried higher protein, lower fat? I'm not saying for weight loss or anything. I'm simply saying it might help you not have that issue. Karen says, okay, great. I've been going for high satiety, high nutrition foods. Foods I can eat forever are carbs, unfortunately. Right. Not super filling, which is why a low carb, high protein diet is often the way to go for a lot of us who are trying to keep our weight down when we struggle to if I could get away with it, I would eat a lot. I like food. I like to eat. Like it. Um, but what's a lot? I mean, if I really push myself, I could probably eat 2,000 calories a day, and then I meet people who eat like 3, and I'm like, "Wow." I would feel really full, and so, we all have different bodies that do different things, so we grass is always greener. I was saying the other day, like, I have genetics that are make fat loss very challenging, and, but I also apparently have genetics that make muscle gain not as challenging. There's this guy in the gym, he is super lean. He's like, I don't know, if you looked at him, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy's really active. Maybe he's a runner." He does not have big muscles, and he gets on the angled leg press and, like, loads that machine up. He's lifting, like, so much weight. I, like, see him, and I'm like, "That was heavy." But there is no visible I mean, he's wearing pants. I don't know what his legs look like, but they're not very big. So, I mean, there are some people that can get very strong without getting very big, right? So there's strength versus hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is the growth, but it's a weird point I'm making. But anyway, we all have different genetics and they make our bodies work in different ways. And we kind of have to embrace how we are. And so some of us have higher caloric intakes than others. Anyway, hey, hey, Jean, nice to have you. Um, anyway, so that's what I think about that. I really do think I really put off getting into the gym for a very long time on my keto journey and my low carb, whatever, my health journey. But I knew for a long time it was super important. And now that I'm in there and I'm doing it, it's so important. It makes such a difference in terms of mood, outlook, body composition. Um, there's just so much benefit to getting your weight lift on. So I just want to encourage everyone. I know it's hard. I would rather lay upon my sofa all day long. I really would. I am a sloth of a human. I do not like to exert myself in any way that doesn't feel really good. And yet now that I'm in the gym regularly, life has improved and I enjoy the process now. And so I just want to put it out there. I'm just going to keep putting it out there that if you are hesitating about doing resistance training, I would encourage you to find a way to make it happen. Even if it's body weight training at home, even if it's just going for a walk. Amy said, "Do I do classes at the gym without or on my own?" I don't really love classes, to be honest. Most classes I think are much more about cardio than they are about, you know, weight training. I prefer to lift heavy things, which aren't as applicable to classes. Though there are certainly classes that do in certain ways. Like I've been to gyms in the past where like they had a bunch of racks and then everyone would be on different racks and doing them together. So I don't do classes. Some people love them though. Something better than nothing. Basically, I was gonna get a trainer, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. So I watched a lot of videos. I talked to a lot of smart people. I got some programming advice from some weightlifty people, and I went to the gym and I watched a lot of YouTube, and that's how I did it. Um, Terry got back to the gym yesterday. Yay! Uh, best way to start muscle building with weight training lost from under eating and slowing metabolism. I would say just start. Starting. Starting is important more than anything. When you're new, you have more flexibility in terms of doing it wrong. Like, I mean, you don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. But going from 0 to something, your body will respond very well. Going from something to a lot, like if you're already an intermediate and now you're trying to become more advanced, it's very challenging. But going from nothing to beginner and then from beginner to better beginner, that's you just need small incremental improvements. One time a week is better than zero. Two times a week is better than one. Three times a week is better. But four times is probably, you probably don't need to go more than two or three times if you're brand new. Like, don't stress yourself out unless you love it. But you should work each muscle group probably twice a week. And so, absolutely, Jean, if you feel like a trainer would be good for you, if you really don't know what you're doing, one of the things that I would say is, even though I have not worked out in a very long time, in my early 20s, I did go to the gym regularly for a while. And so I kind of, and I worked with a trainer at that point. So it's not entirely new to me. It's just new to me recently. So, but yes, if you don't know anything about anything, a trainer is very helpful. One of the things I would caution though, and one of the reasons I didn't use a trainer this time, is one of the experience I've had in my life is the trainers pushed me harder than was appropriate for the body that I was in, and I ended up feeling overwhelmed and defeated and, like, worked to a level that was inappropriate. So, know your boundaries, work with a trainer that is not, like, balls to the wall, like, no pain, no gain. I don't suggest that. You wanna be careful about who you hire. Um Krista says she's been going to the gym with a friend. Yeah, absolutely. That social dynamic is helpful. Amy says, "How do you handle the bros at the strength machines like the cable rows? I'm pretty frustrated. I can't get on some of the weight equipment due to guys claiming it is their territory." Hi, I'm role playing. You, the audience, are the guy. While he's doing something, leave him alone. Do not approach anyone doing something in the gym. But there'll be a moment when he stops doing something. He puts the weight down, he's taking a rest, right? Maybe he does 10 sets, stops for a minute. Hi, can I work in on this machine? What that means is, because they're going to do a set and a break and a set and a break. You get the machine on the break, then you give it back to them. Then you back and forth. Some people will occupy like three machines because instead they're doing a circuit. So they're doing, instead of, they'll do this leg machine, and then during their break from the leg machine they're going to work their arms over here. So they're going back and forth and back and forth. But you're allowed to say, "Hey, can I work in here?" Claim it. You have as much right as they do. Smile and be nice. "Hey, can I work in on this set?" They almost always say yes. Sometimes they'll say, "This is my last set. Just can I?" And then you can have it afterwards. And I just, sure. And I just sort of stand there to the side, and then I hop on when they're done. Amelia says, "It is so crazy how non-keto people are against this diet and they eat so unhealthy and are not well." Yes, denial is strong. If you talk to a alcoholic who doesn't acknowledge they're an alcoholic, they will often fight very hard against you not wanting to drink. Um, hey Karen, we all do things that if we knew better, we would have done better, and we didn't. And you can only start from where you are. So I think you're going to do amazing. Tracy says, "My gym used to have pizza night and bagels." Being the pita, as in pain in the booty. I am. I always ask where the muffins and donuts were too. um, Karen says, "Any recommendation for home gym equipment?" I think if you're starting from zero, probably getting a good set of bands can be a great way to start. And then getting some, from there, it's really about what your budget is going to be. You can always start with bands and body weight exercises and then work up from there. Lady Savage, Crystal Sykes has a band workout program that you can look at. It's like you can buy it. And so that might be a good one. Another person that you can follow is Rachel Gregory. She does gym workouts, but she does demos on YouTube. So if you're like, "How do I do a fill in the blank, you can look for Rachel Gregory on YouTube and she'll give you some information. Um, all right. So yeah, good. But yeah, oh, why? Okay. Why free weights versus machines? Okay, got it. Again, this is just I'm a newbie in this arena, so just so you know, I'm just sharing my opinion. Um, I do machines and free weights. Depends on the exercise. So, why are machines good? Machines only work in one way, right? So, what you're doing with a machine is the machine helps you be more isolated. So let's talk, so we've got a body, and as we move our body, there are certain motions that we call compound motions, which is they use multiple muscles at the same time. So if you think about a squat, so, a squat is basically just going from standing to sitting without actually sitting, sort of. And as you do that, you're using different leg muscles, you're using a little bit of abs, some back, right? So multiple muscles are being recruited, are being used in that motion. Whereas if I am on a leg extension machine, that's more isolated, right? Although there are some machines that will work multiple muscles, like a leg press will work your glutes and your thigh, hamstring, not your hamstrings, quads, right? So different muscles, some calf, a little bit. So the good thing about a machine is that because the machine is itself self-stabilized, you don't have to worry about your balance or stability, and it's a little more focused on specific muscles. Whereas when you're using free weights or body weight training with free weights, your body is responsible for the stabilization, right? So if my arm is in a machine where I'm just doing this, I don't have to worry about stabilization. Whereas if I'm holding a free weight and I'm doing this, my arm can move in lots of directions. And so staying stable is also something that I have to do. That can be a little more taxing on your central nervous system, which isn't a bad thing. So they just train your body differently. So I think a mix of them is great. But if you're brand new and intimidated by the free weights, I don't think there's a problem using machines at all. And if you're worried that you're going to hurt yourself, you're less likely to hurt yourself on a machine as long as you're using an appropriate amount of weight and you've set the machine up right. So hopefully that helps. All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up for the week, unless anyone has a last question. But I think it's been awesome to be here with you tonight, and I'm glad that we are. I'm glad we're friends. Anyway, so I'm happy to be here, and I hope that you have a really incredibly fabulous week. All right, bye, guys. I don't know how to turn this thing off ever.